You're watching the free version of Silhouette Essentials. For projects and footage, head to BorisFX.com for the premium download.
Welcome to Class 7, where the focus will be on a wire removal shot. No paint course would be complete without one. Wire removals come in all shapes and forms, and here's the one we have today. The task is to remove the wire from the background and over the character, and also to fix the cuffs of the shirt sleeves so that they don't look like they're obviously being lifted up from the wires. So let's play the shot through and think about the shot approach. For the shot approach, one needs to think about how to address the background and the character paint separately, as each may require different methods. For the background, the options would be to make a clean plate or two, track the background and replace it procedurally. You might need one for the back wall and one for the staircase if they move differently from each other. And then you would have to roto the character to put over the background clean plates. And this seems like a lot of work, and you would also have to do edge treatment on hair and motion blurred edges and possibly some touch-up paint. Or you could just paint out the wires by hand using clone offsets from different frames. However, I think the best approach would be to track the background and use the source match move technique. For the character, that will require traditional hand paint. As for the cuffs on the sleeves, that's a manual approach too. Okay, so let's get started on this shot where everything will be painted manually. For the source match move technique, the first thing I need to do is track and stabilize the background. So here in my trees window here, I have my denoised plate. That was denoised from a previous session. And I have a sample roto node and a sample paint node for the demo. Okay, so then let's just play this through. And the first tracking technique I'm going to try is to corner pin the background with point tracks. I'm going to go to the roto node here. I'm going to go to the foreground mode for faster tracking. And I'm going to place my 4 points. I want to place them in an area where they won't be obstructed by the character moving throughout the shot. So let's just start placing our points. Shift T for the tracker tab. Make sure I'm in the point tracker. I'm just going to zoom in here. And let's place our first point. Alt Option and somewhere down here. I'm going to make the match area and just kind of scrub through to make sure it's not going to be obstructed by the arm, and that looks okay. And then I'm going to look at the channels. Alt B, Alt G, Alt R, Alt B. I think the blue channel would be good to track in. I'm just going to right click here and click blue. And then I'm just going to make my other points at the same time, and then we'll track it once. So I'm going to look up in the upper right corner. And we'll select an area here. Make our match area. I'm going to make sure I pull out just the dotted area for the search. And maybe I'll just up the contrast a little bit. And turn off preview and back to color. And then we'll look for the other points here. I'm going to do this lower area first here. Sometimes just have a difficult time pulling out the search area. There we go. Check the channels. Looks like the blue channel is the choice today. Make sure I selected the blue channel for this one. And then we need something for the upper area here. Go back to color. What I really want to do is track an area where the wire goes over and have it stabilized. but I'm hesitant to track a foreground object over the background. But I think I can do that if I notice that the staircase is not moving much differently from the background. So I'm just going to scrub through and see how much this is moving against the wall. It's not that much, because I really don't want to track something back here. It might be just too far away to get a good match for this area. So I'm just going to track the staircase here and just pretend that it's all on one plane. And we have a nice little object here to track. And we'll just do that in the blue channel as well. Okay, so we have all our point trackers here. I'm going to select them all. And I'm going to track to the beginning of the shot. Okay, it looks pretty good, but to really see how this works, we're going to create a layer. All our trackers are selected. We're going to click Apply, and then we're going to make a corner pin tracked layer, say OK, and I'm just going to call this Point Track Demo. And then I'm also going to put all my point trackers in a layer. I'm going to select them all. Actually, I'm just going to create a layer, and then I'm just going to drag them all into this layer here. And I'm going to call this Point Tracks. And I'm going to just turn that off and move this to the lower part of the object list. Okay, now we have our point track demo layer here. I'm going to go up to the stabilized view, point track demo, zoom in a little bit, and play the shot through. And I'm going to hold my cursor over certain areas to see how stabilized it is. It's pretty good. It feels like there's a tiny little drift in there. I'll just go to a couple different areas here, areas that will really make a difference. So it's sort of an old-fashioned way to hold your cursor over a feature in the background, but I find it really works well. And then we'll just go over here. So it's pretty good, but I still feel like I see maybe a little drift, and we're going to try a different method. Okay, next let's try using the Mocha Track. So I'm going to try to planar track the background. When I'm looking at the shot, there are characters moving all over the place, and that might interfere with some of my shapes. So I need to make a subtractive shape for her. So when it goes over some of my background tracking shapes, it won't interfere and throw the track off. So I would have to make a GMAT here and just loosely go around the character and just animate that through. I don't think that she could be tracked easily, so it's more like a manual animation, some articulation here, or I guess just some GMATting here. But to save time, I've already done a GMAT, and we'll go over to one of my finished roto nodes, and we'll just copy that. So I'm going to copy this shape here, copy, and paste it into my roto demo. I'm just going to delete the shape we don't need and turn this on. I'm just going to call this character GMAT. Okay, so now you can see I rotoed the wire and her for the areas that I need it, where my track shapes are going to go. Okay, so now I need to make my track shapes for the background. So I'm going to use square shapes, Shift S, and we'll go to the tracking tab as well, and back to Shift S. Okay, and we'll start making our tracking shapes. And I don't need to worry if they're going to be interacting with the GMAT. Okay, so then I can put all of these in a layer. I'm going to select them all and just drag them into this layer. But what I need to do is put my character GMAT on top of this layer here, go back to the tracking tab, Shift S or Shift T. We'll go to the Mocha tab here. And we're going to make sure that our character GMAT is set to subtract. So you can either click this icon here until you get to the subtract icon, or you can go to the node here. Let's just unlock it to the object, and you can set the blend mode to subtract there. So then I'm just going to lock that shape. And then here, to get the tracking correctly, you don't want to track the subtracted layers. I'm just going to uncheck that. And then I'm also not going to put my character GMAT in a layer. Then for the tracking, I'm going to select the GMAT here, Shift select my layer I want to track, and then track the shot. And I'm just going to do translation, scale, and rotation. And now you can see that my background shapes are tracking okay. They're not being thrown off by the character because we have the subtractive GMAT. Okay, so let's take a look at the result in the stabilized view. I'm just going to label this layer planar track demo. And we'll go up to the stabilization options here and choose the planar track demo. I'm just going to turn off the overlays. We'll just go to a different mode here. Here we go. And play it through. So again, I'm going to hold my cursor over an area. And this feels pretty good as well. So I think I'm going to go with this result for the demo. It could be a little bit of drift over in certain areas, but since I'm not painting down here, it's not going to matter so much. It's mostly the areas up here and down to the right. So next up, we'll get set up to use Source Match Move.